Yes, people, welcome here to another week, of course, of Numbers Don't Lie, powered by Sofascore. And this week, I'm gonna be your boy to put you up on game, right? The holiday season's only around the corner, so that means potential sales and, of course, a lot of departures. With the holiday season, no, you need to find yourself a bargain or two. And when you look no further, this might be the best bargain that's on the market right now. So let's ask the real question that's happening in the world of football. What's happened to Rodrygo? But if I'm going to dive into this, there's two house calls that we need to do. First of all, make sure you dive into the comments and get involved. And secondly, introduce my running mate, the Triple H to my Shawn Michaels, the Yin to my Yang twins. And you know what time it is? This Nico Cantor in the building. So Nico, to play for Real Madrid and to wear the, of course, famous all-white shirt, you need to have flair, productivity, but most importantly, you need to be able to produce. What's happened to Rodrygo, bro?
I don't know. His last goal was against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, and that was a long, long time ago. A record amount of time. So we're going to dive deep into this a little bit. I mean, are we getting rid of Rodrygo already? But listen, this 29-game streak has been incredible. 0 goals, total shots 36, expected goals 1.38 over 29 games. It's not that great, JD.
I'm telling you, man, the glaring stat, as we said, to wear the all-famous white shirt, you cannot be producing 0 goals. I don't care if you're starting, I don't care if you're coming off the bench, I don't care if you're in the Castilla, if you're in the reserve team. This right here is what your currency is as a forward that is a Galactico. So infamously, when we look at it and you see it in a condensed period, you start to ask the question, is his time running out? Because he's no longer that wonder kid that came here and astounded everyone from Brazil. He's now a 24-year-old grown man that needs to be established himself in the first team.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, he's always been a role player at Real Madrid, but the importance of his role has diminished, especially when he doesn't score goals. I mean, compare him to all the wingers. You've got Diaz, Greenwood, Elise, Vini, Yamal, all the way out far right on this graph with XG and how many goals you score. Rodrygo isn't producing quality shots, and obviously because of that, he's not scoring. He has been so poor.
Bro, that right there is inexcusable. I can hear the people already in the comments. Well, how many games has he started? How many conversations has he been in? If I let you know right now, start off the top of my head, half of those games in terms of this run we're talking about, he has started half of those games. There is no excuse for a player of his quality to be down here when you're thinking about your Diaz, Elise, Yamal, and Vini is all the way up there. It's becoming to the point now we're having to ask serious questions as to whether or not he can wear the weight of that shirt.
It's a good question. I never thought that I'd be asking about Rodrygo because for so many seasons he was the unsung hero. But when you bring in an Mbappe, when you bring in a Jude Bellingham, when there's limited positions for those 3 attackers, Rodrygo doesn't make it. And on top of that, when he doesn't produce, you're casting him off as every game goes on to the side. And we talked about this being a record run, 29 games with the goals. We're getting to Mariano Diaz numbers. I know my Dominicanos watching this aren't too happy about...
You're doing that to them again.
Mariano's route at Real Madrid, but it is historic. Mariano went 30 matches in a row without scoring, and this fact is muy strong. Obviously, it's translated from English, muy fuerte. Mr. Chip with the knowledge here. So 29 plus consecutive games. One more game, just needs one more appearance, and he's reaching that Mariano Diaz numbers. He already has more minutes without scoring than Rafa Marañón, who's about to get there, right? The streak has lasted about to get there. Rafa Marañón was a player from the 70s, but we're talking like modern football. Rodrygo is putting up Mariano drought. Now, let's see how much Rodrygo's numbers have dwindled. The best season, 2022-2023. That is arguably the best Rodrygo. And we're using this pentagon to see all of the attacking numbers. The next season wasn't so bad, but as Mbappe shows up to Real Madrid and as his importance starts dwindling, so do the numbers, right? He hasn't been able to get as many shots per game. Obviously not scoring a game, but dribble attempts per game, shots in the box, XG, all of that drops down. And especially this season, we're seeing a Rodrygo that is a shell of his best version.
You are so right. But you also alluded to an incredible point there, Nico, because when you start talking about a shell of yourself, you need to start talking about the variable as to why, right? So I need for you to turn around and follow me for a second. Because when you start breaking it down, Nico really just alluded to what could be a massive conversation point. When we're not just talking about what's happening on the field, but also what's happening off the field. The second you put on a Real Madrid shirt, you have to balance your egos. You have to balance all of the personalities that's in there. But also you have to balance the positional sense of new incoming players, especially if they're producing. So enter the fray, Jude Bellingham, and of course, Kylian Mbappe. Because if you look at Rodrygo before their appearances, or before they, of course, joined the club, where was he finding himself? A lot of times in the central position, coming as an inside forward, wanting to impact the game by cutting inside and doing the things that he does great in terms of committing players, scoring goals, creating chances. As you start to progress into this side, you start seeing he's hugging position a little bit more. He's also on both wings, which is so interesting to me when you think about someone who was so predominantly a left-sided forward to now have to split his game between both the left side and the right side. That might be a notable reason for the progression or the regression. When you start comparing that to how he has to versatile and balance that against these new teammates that he has, who are coming in with massive egos, massive potential, and of course, massive productivity, it's understandable as to why Rodrygo has progressed or regressed in terms of in comparison to your Kylian Mbappe entering the fray and Jude Bellingham entering the fray as well, because he doesn't have the balance in that, Nico.
Yeah, listen, he's either a substitute for Vini on the left-hand side or he's playing as a complement on the right. With Ancelotti, when it was them two up top with the tandem, they were very fluid and you saw a little bit more of this. But when you throw it and Kylian Mbappe into the mix and the Vinicius Jr. into the mix, how often were we talking about there's an overbooking of left wingers at Real Madrid? Well, Vini can't play the same position, Mbappe can't play the same position, and Rodrygo can't play the same position. Then you throw in Jude Bellingham, right, who obviously wants to drift in these areas to provide for either an overlapper, for Vinicius, for Mbappe, two players that are obviously elite, that are obviously at the top of this team's hierarchy of needs. You're going to play towards him. So you have to, obviously, where's the only space that you can float into? On the right-hand side. But Rodrygo says that he likes to play left wing, that he's a left winger, not a right winger, although he has delivered in important matches for Real Madrid on the right-hand side.
Can I give a bit of a moan just to modern football for a second?
Okay.
Because I look at these wingers now, and I grew up in an era with Damien Duff, or I grew up in an era with Ian Robben or Robert Perez or Freddie Ljungberg, where they could play on both sides. They could play in terms of both angles. I think this new age of wingers, yes, they might be more productive, yes, they might be more dynamic, but you've got to have more strings to your bow. You've got to be able to produce both on the right and both on the left. That's why I appreciate players like Leandro Trossard, who can do it in both ways. I think even Node Madueke, who can do it on both ways. They're just very, very different in terms of overall when you're looking at the modern footballer now. All I'm hearing this question mark is, oh, well, I can only do it on one side. I can only do it on one side. I don't think that's an excuse anymore. It's unacceptable for a player of his quality to turn around and have the dilemmas and the problems that he's had. But we're not just going to sit here and give the dilemmas. We're here to find solutions. So here's the question marks, right? We've seen all the fixtures across Europe and top 5 leagues this week. Where can we find our home for Rodrygo? I hear a lot of people saying Juventus might enter the fray. AC Milan's another question mark.
I got one.
Thinking a little bit closer to home. Go on, give me one.
Yeah. What about Tottenham Hotspur?
See, now, we watched their performance of the weekend against Arsenal. They lacked a lot of dynamic behaviour. They really didn't have good transitional play. And I think they really struggled in the final third to create individual chances for themselves. When you look here overall and you compare what they have right now, Nico, I think this could be a home for him. Champions League, no doubt about it. European Cup winners. It doesn't matter if it's top tier, second tier, or tertiary tier. They have an actual potential home. And London's not a bad place to live in, I could.
Yeah, not bad. And I'm looking at their left wing. Who are they playing on that side? They got Wilson Odobert, who obviously isn't of that type of quality, especially if you compare him to all the Premier League wingers out there. Shots per game, not producing. XG per game, not producing. Dribble attempts per game, got 2. Listen, this is all, I mean, we're not discovering anything new here. Wilson Odobert is not that top quality striker, but listen, let's imagine Rodrygo regains his form, because sometimes you do need a breath of fresh air, and compare the numbers from that season where Rodrygo was lights out to what Spurs have right now at the moment. Look at Odobert, look at Xavi Simons, look at Richarlison. 3 players with different profiles, but Rodrygo, he's coming at you a lot more. Not only that, he's winning more balls per game. And obviously the Sofascore rating speaks for itself. But Rodrygo is a different quality of player that might force Spurs to play a little bit differently for a player like Rodrygo if they are to get him.
And I think Thomas Frank has been leaning or looking for a magic player. Mohamed Kudus, and even in this down period in terms of Spurs' form, has still managed to have an element of consistency. The chances he's created, the assists have been brilliant. If he could find a resolution on both sides, all of a sudden it adds Tottenham with a different level of dynamic. And also, let's not forget, they were very open about the fact that they wanted Savinho. in the summer. They were very heavily chasing a player that they knew could create those chances individually.
Without a doubt.
Go and win games by himself.
But
this is another Brazilian that could do so.
I think he definitely can, but I'm looking at the way that Spurs play somebody into space, exploit backlines, and Spurs at the moment isn't doing that.
I couldn't believe this when I saw this.
They are #1 in the Premier League with least through balls. They've played a grand total of 4 through balls this season. What are we at? 12 match days in?
4? That tells me all I need to know in terms of the creativity. And I want to give the caveat. Of course, the absence of Maddison is going to impact that. Of course, Kulusevski's absence is going to impact that.
And Xavi Simons hasn't been up to the standard,
And Xavi Simons hasn't stepped into that role that we needed him to step into. But this is highly unacceptable, especially when you're talking about the struggles that Wolverhampton have had, and they've had double the amount of through balls that you've had already this year. There's question marks. And this isn't question marks around Thomas Frank. There's question marks around Spurs overall. Do you have anything else you want to turn around and say? Because I can see it. Rodrygo to Spurs, yes or no?
Yeah, I mean, crazy to think, because the way, especially that they played against Arsenal, you would have thought it provides for space in behind to play those through balls, and they're not even doing that. That game against Arsenal was just a disaster, right? It didn't show Spurs at their best. But just considering that, if they are to get a guy the quality of Rodrygo, they're going to have to adapt a little bit more.
Rodrygo, get on the phone. This is your boy telling you, man. If you need some references, call Gabriel Martinelli, Gabriel himself, Richarlison. There's enough Brazilians in North London to make you feel at home. But of course, if you feel in the comments that he deserves another home, you let us know. This is Numbers Don't Lie. You know what time it is.
It's Numbers Don't Lie, powered by Sofascore. We got a big game coming up this week in Champions League. It's Arsenal against Bayern Munich. Get involved in the chat throughout all of our conversation today, and plus stick around until the end for our betting expert tips. Who's got the edge between Arsenal and Bayern Munich? Nico Cantor, JayDee Dyer joining us for this one as well. Listen, JayDee, it's a big matchup. I know your heart is settled on one of these teams, but we've got an interesting new metric in order to evaluate how good these teams are, because it's a battle of two giants.
It is two giants. This is probably the two most elite teams in Europe, and probably can hang their heads in saying, when you look at the comparison of the two teams, they really do break down every single metric in terms of from intensity, in terms of advanced stats, in terms of attacking and defensively. These two teams really do beat every single metric when you're talking about the 4 components of football. And of course, you know, you always need to throw in possession as well. So I'm interested to dive into this, because today is really going to break down, like I said to you, 2 juggernauts, 2 elite teams, and 2 teams that are really doing it on both ends of the floor.
So we are going to look at the attack, the defense, the possession, the intensity, and see where Arsenal and Bayern land on this Z-score rating from 0 to 100. Our possible starting 11s for the match.
Break down the Bayern. I want to hear your thoughts on the Bayern 11.
Without a couple of key players, right? Mm-hmm. So, first off, for Bayern, no Luis Diaz. That's a massive miss, obviously suspended because of that red card, that tackle against Hakimi. But this is basically the team, which probably means that Leonard Carl goes into the 11, Olise plays in a number 10 role, or Harry Kane drops a little bit deeper and Nico Jackson goes up top.
Which you think is a better lineup, just quickly, because looking at Nico Jackson and the threat that he could give, especially in behind to this back 4, do you think that Nico Jackson should be given a nod? Yeah,
Nico Jackson could be an opportunity, especially that it doesn't give Saliba and Hincapié a reference on Harry Kane. So I'd be interesting to see what that 11 would be.
Looking at this 11 right here, this is really the way that Mikel Arteta has built his foundation. Trossard has increased his performances this year, especially after extending his new deal. Of course, Mikel Merino is a different, versatile player that can do absolutely everything on the pitch. Eze's had the best week in an Arsenal shirt that he's had probably since signing for the club. Declan Rice has been the embodiment of consistency. And this back 4, everyone was questioning when Gabriel was absent, and we're definitely going to talk about his absentee in a second, but Hincapié has stepped into it almost effortlessly and seamlessly, and he knows all about this team in terms of from his time in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into the first metric, which is the attack in our Z-score. So production, we're considering goals and XG. Bayern obviously are the standard, 100 on this ranking. Ooh. Chance creations, transitions, and attacking set pieces. Bayern does have the edge in a lot of this, except for attacking set pieces. Duh, right? Arsenal are the standard in there. So when you look at the ranking, just in this attacking category, Bayern are top of that list.
I think you question mark one thing, and immediately the fans will look to this and ask themselves, is this a mistake in terms of, are you trying to say 11.5? Yeah, 11.5, because when you really break it down, Nico, how often are Arsenal in transition? Because of the way that they play, the style in terms of the absorbing into the final third, and the way that they want to squeeze players, especially in their final third. So I don't really see Arsenal in being a lot of transition, but they might have to adapt a lot of that if they are to be successful. Because when you start looking at the fast breaks and the breakdowns, you see how Bayern can be really quick in terms of front to back.
Yeah, I think a perfect example is this weekend, Spurs against Arsenal. How many times did Spurs just go, boom, get it out of here, boom, get it out of here?
Long ball.
There was not even an opportunity for Arsenal to press or to counterattack. It's like they're in control of the game, whereas Bayern, on the other hand, Bayern are comfortable without the ball a lot, and I think that's going to be a key factor in the match.
Oh, so then I'm interested to know what you think. Do you think you're going to see a different style from Bayern this year? Because when you see their possession stats, they're used to dominating games. We've seen them in the Bundesliga for a number of times. Ball possession is one thing, field tilt is another. But when you actually do the eye test and you watch how they almost suffocate teams in terms of the way they control possession, the way that they dominate you, especially in the areas in which they can be effective, I think Bayern will have to maybe make a slight adjustment, because this might be the best opposition that they've played so far in their calendar overall. And Arsenal, you can see average in terms of their opponents, they're not really used to a lot of teams absorbing or dominating possession in any which way. And their passing accuracy, as you can see, is a lot lower. So looking at the two teams in terms of the opposition that Arsenal have usually faced to the teams that they're facing in terms of this Wednesday, wow. It's going to be an interesting way in terms of Mikel Arteta and his defensive foundation that he's built, and whether or not they can sit up to this test.
Absolutely, and I wonder how much of the ball Bayern is going to give to Arsenal, and vice versa, right? A good sample size would have been the PSG game, right? Because those are two teams that like to have the ball, that like to dictate. But because of the red card, the dynamic of the game shifted a little bit. So Bayern perhaps will say to Arsenal, hey, you can have the ball because we're comfortable without it.
See, me and Nico are so used to just being kind of cool within this. Like, we just kind of break these stats down, go through these numbers, and allow you, of course, in the comments to decide whether or not you side with Nico's side or my side, and usually we're on the same side as well. But today we're going to go a bit back and forth, because when you really look at it in the possessions and the field tilt, Nico, I'm a bit concerned about the progressive passes that you're seeing from Arsenal in the final third, because Harry Kane is so versatile, arguably the best player in world football right now in terms of what he does, whether it's in the false nine or leading the line by himself. So are you concerned at all? Or are you smiling when looking at the way that Bayern can utilise their strengths, especially in the final third?
Yeah, with a lot of these stats, I think we're going to be splitting hairs. But because that metric right there is such a stark contrast, it is kind of crazy to think. But then again, you go back to this whole Bayern without the ball. Look at their Klassiker, where Harry Kane is dropping so deep. Look at where Bayern start playing out of the back. Harry Kane on a turn, playing players into space. Whereas Arsenal, because they like having the ball so much, they're playing further up the field. So percent of forward passes might be less. Passes forward per game, a lot less, because they are suffocating opponents. They are dictating games. They are placing much closer to their opposition's goal.
I love this, and in fact, I'm really happy that Martin Odegaard is on the graphic, because I think this could be a massive opportunity for the captain to re-establish himself. Whether he starts or he comes off the bench, these are the type of factors in which he could really impact this game, especially when you talk about passes forward. People be sleeping on Martin, and people questioning his form, and rightfully so, because of the standards he set for himself as the Arsenal captain. But this is the metric in which he can really dictate and impact overall, the final third entries especially. Eze is one thing in terms of in the 10 position, but Odegaard is another. But since we're on the talk of players that can change the game, a player that I know you've been focused on, right? Leonard Carl, because I know that he's a bit special. I know I really want to talk about the wonder kids that are coming from England, but you have to also talk about the wonder kids that come from Germany too. Yeah,
especially without Luis Diaz. I wonder what type of role Leonard Carl is going to have if he does start. But every time he steps onto the field, he's been very good. Obviously, these are sample sizes per 90. It's an average. Just considering that he doesn't play that much, these numbers are boosted, but it does come to show you that every time that he does come onto the field, he does a really good job. But now, let's shift our focus into the defensive side of things and compare Arsenal and Bayern as we start to realize which team is closer to that 100 mark in our Z-score rating. Shot suppression, goalkeeping. Following up, last line of defense, and obviously we would think that Arsenal is near to the top here because this is their bread and butter, right? they are probably the standard in most defensive categories.
I would say so too. In terms of the standards, and this is where the Arsenal fans start entering the conversation in the comments, right? Because the foundation that Mikel Arteta has set for this team has been built on solidity, has been built on consistency, and has also been built on depth. Because it doesn't matter who steps out of that back four or back five, including David Raya, they seem to be able to keep the consistency in terms of what the ethos for this team is. There is no shots. There is real pride in terms of taking control in the defensive unit, and most importantly, they've become the standard now. That's why they're at 100. In terms of across Europe, it isn't just me saying it anymore. The stats are proving it. They are the best team in Europe with defensively anyway.
My question is, though, out of all these numbers, I'm looking at defending set pieces on the Bayern side of things.
Ooh.
And from 0 to 100, it ranks at 47.3 among Europe's top 5 teams. And when we know that we're talking about set pieces, Arsenal are king in Europe. So that is concerning. You look at XG against in set pieces for Bayern, 3.02 when you exclude penalties. And from those 3.02 XG against on set pieces, they've conceded 8. That might be an area of concern for this match.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need you to focus on this man right here, Nicolas Jova, because sometimes you see him on the sideline, you see Arteta give him a hug after set pieces, and there's a reason for it. Because this is the genius that has really transitioned Arsenal from being that team that was fragile at set pieces. You remember the question marks against Stoke or Burnley or Brentford. Well, this guy has had his experience at Manchester City, had his experience at Brentford, and has come now and transformed this team both offensively and defensively in terms of set pieces. There's a reason why they are so elite. Now, they are missing one key component. We talked about Lucha Diaz earlier. You heard my boy Nico make reference to him. Another South American that's going to be missing from this fixture, of course, is Gabriel, who's been the heartbeat of Arsenal's defence overall, regardless in terms of the dominance that he's had in both boxes. I haven't really seen it since John Terry in terms of the control in being able to dictate what happens in both of those boxes.
The fearlessness.
The fearlessness, the aggression, the dedication to win every single ball.
It's incredible.
It's inside of here. And I understand the South American pride. Yeah? I get it now. I get it now, Nico, because there's an element of desire that comes with him that he breathes into the rest of his teammates.
Yeah, and obviously not having him either on the first header or the second header, the way that he crashes into any cross that Declan Rice serves, it's pretty incredible. So they'll have to make up for that type of loss because Gabriel Magalhães is next level when it comes to winning duels in the air. All right, our last metric, intensity. And we want to compare Arsenal and Bayern when it comes to pressing. It's possession one in the final third. Obviously, Arsenal having the ball a lot means that they don't lose it, whereas Bayern, going back to this whole playing in transition game, duels, tackles, interceptions, foul avoidance, foul avoidance for Arsenal. And both of these teams with this intensity drop off a little bit, and I think this goes to show you the control that both these teams exercise with the opposition that they face.
I want to add one more factor, which is not seen here in terms of that can lift intensity. Home factor, big game factor. Wednesday the 26th is going to be a massive night. And you saw what happened in terms of on the weekend and how the Emirates almost added an extra flavour to Arsenal's play. Every tackle, every drive, every press was just raised up in terms of the level of intensity. Well, I expect to see it again. I've seen some magical Champions League nights in North London. Barcelona comes to mind. Juventus comes to mind. There's a number of things that the fans can add in terms of overall when you're talking about the intensity, the progression and the pressing that comes with this factor. So I know what the stats say. The eye test says it as well, though. The extra man could be the fans.
Yeah, it definitely can be. I'm thinking of a player that Bayern don't have, and we've talked about Luis Diaz. One of the best things that he has shown this season is the pressing, especially when you lose the ball. He regains it in the attacking third. So that's going to be a big miss because a lot of these metrics are driven forward for Bayern. It is because of Luis Diaz. But let's compile all of these stats together and see on our Z-score rating where these teams rank. Bayern above Arsenal on attack, Arsenal, of course, above Bayern on defense, and then Bayern gets the edge in possession and intensity. We add them all up, and our final score is, and this is Europe's top 5 teams. We are really splitting hairs. Bayern is top. Bayern is the standard at 100. Arsenal at 94.7. Top-tier matchup. It doesn't get better than that.
So here's the harder question. Forget the stats for a second, right? Because we do the eye test on this show as well. Who's your heart going with? Who's
Bayern.
going to win on Wednesday? Put it out there.
Bayern, I think.
Ooh, well, I'm going to turn around and say I think a win is going to be happening in North London. I think the intensity, the form, and also, more importantly, the absence of Lucho Diaz is going to be massive for Bayern. So I think overall, I think you could see Arsenal topping the table when it comes down to the end of the game.
I mean, if I had to put money on it, I would say Bayern win or draw.
It's so interesting you say money on it, because I know one person that we can definitely make reference to, right? You know who it is.
Okay.
It's time. Hey, Buckets, we need a little bit expertise in the building. And but all for reference, the Bayern flag over Buckets really tells you in terms of where his allegiance is straight away. But how are you feeling?
I'm feeling nervous, if I can be honest with you, JD. I still was able to find a couple bets here. I want to be respectful of you. I want to be respectful of the Gunners. But this is such a tough game to bet on. I found a couple wagers I'm going to share with you guys. I'd love to know your opinions on these. And the first bet I'm going with here is frankly just betting on goals. I'm going with both teams to score in this fixture and over 2.5 goals at plus 105. I know that Arsenal are the defensive standard. They're this incredible team and they are a wall when they're playing at home. But they haven't had to play the attack of Harry Kane and Michael Olise yet. Missing Luis Diaz is a very, very big impact, but Bayern Munich doesn't play slow football. They play a very high line, and under Vincent Kompany, this is a team that just presses and presses and presses. If you're going to beat Bayern Munich, you don't get to beat them by playing for a cagey 1-0 kind of matchup. It's going to take goals. Meanwhile, I watched Bayern Munich in Bundesliga play dismantle Freiburg 6-2, but both of the goals they conceded were on corner kicks. Bayern is terrible at defending corner kicks, so they're going to struggle against Arsenal. So I really just like betting on goals in this one. That way I don't have to choose a side yet here, guys. Do we like goals at the very least?
I like that. I like that. What do you think?
Yet. I love how he served it up with a yet. Hey, I welcome goals. You guys are the ones that have your heart on the line. I'm moving out the popcorn and just watching. I'm enjoying this one. Go ahead, Buckets. What else you got for us?
For my second bet, and I'm going to show my bias here a little bit, I'm looking for a player prop. And I know that everybody wants to bet on Harry Kane because he's Harry Kane. I know that everybody wants to bet on Eze right now, especially coming off of that North London derby. But when I'm looking at a player that I'm trusting with my hard-earned money, I'm actually looking at Michael Olise here because we're getting, frankly, kind of a weird and I think incorrect line when I'm looking at him. Olise to score or assist in this fixture is plus 200. 2-1 odds for a guy who has 12 Bundesliga contributions and already has 3 Champions League contributions. Again, I don't have to pick a winner by playing this, but I do think that Olise, without Diaz available, is going to have to really step up and help carry some of that extra weight. And with Gabriel missing for this Arsenal side, again, I just think we're going to see goals here, guys. So why would I not bet Olise at plus 200?
Ooh. Hey, Buckets, what about a side bet between me and you? Dinner for the losing team? The losing team, obviously, the fan has to buy dinner. What are you thinking?
I will absolutely do that. What happens in the case of a draw, though? We
scratch it off and we just go for dinner anyway.
Scratch it? I love it. I love it. I will absolutely make that bet with you.
Okay.
JD.
All right, Buckets. Well, good luck to you, JD. Good luck to you as well. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm enjoying. This is a neutral's dream. Arsenal against Bayern Munich. Wow, Champions League. You ready?
Ready.
This is Numbers Don't Lie.
Welcome to our favorite segment of the week. Of course, you know what time it is. The WTF Stats of the Week. Nico Cantor, JayDee Dyer in the building. And this is the most humbling part of the week because this is the only part we have no idea what's coming next. We rattle through a couple of stats for you just to tell you about some crazy, incredible stats that's happened. And then it's trivia time. And Nico, we've had some good weeks. We've had some bad weeks, right?
Well, better good weeks than bad weeks.
I like his optimism. I love it. All right, let's roll into our first one, right? This is an incredible stat this week from the North London derby because watching this guy in terms of rejuvenate his career, he seems to add layers to his career every single time, but this one is incredible. Every time Trossard scores when Arsenal play, of course. 24 wins, 8 draws. It's just fantastic looking what Leandro Trossard has done. The Belgium is just incredible, inside, outside, short in magnitude, but big in terms of his heart. See how I recovered it there? It was nice, right? I didn't want to kill him too much.
Undefeated, like Arsenal when Trossard scores.
Yeah, guy. That's what I wanted to say. All right, flip to the next one, though, because the next one's actually quite fun.
Okay, all right, yeah, let's take a look at it. Callum Wilson against Bournemouth. He had 2 goals but 0 accurate passes. And listen to this. He's the first player on record to score 2+ goals with not a single accurate pass in a top 5 league game while playing 30+ minutes. That is incredible. Talk about efficiency at its finest, right?
I mean, Goals is your currency. Callum Wilson has built his whole career, Bournemouth, West Ham, everywhere else in between.
But you
Goals is your currency. Newcastle too.
At least find a teammate.
Nah, bro.
What?
I'm a number 9. That's what I do. I'm built to score. Okay, here's the fun part now, because the trivia section, and we have no idea what's happening. Of course, we always have one player on one team. So roll me the player. Let's see what happens first. Let's just see what happens. Can we guess this player, Nico? The clue is he leads the top 5 leagues in terms of big chances of outscoring, despite being injured since the start, with the end of October. Okay, 7 big chances, no goals. You at least have a little bit of a clue from his, I don't know, is it silhouette?
His team won a derby game yesterday.
Ooh.
An Inter player. It leads top 5 leagues in big chances without scoring, despite being injured since the start of October.
The end of October.
Since the end of being injured since the end of October.
We got a third clue? You only 2 clues? Oh, third one's coming. Joined his current club for a record fee from his...
Oh, is this Jimenez, Santi Jimenez?
Ah, that's a good shout.
But his team won a derby game yesterday, threw me off, but he's been injured since the start of October.
Jimenez.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. I like that. I didn't realize he had created so
Alright.
many big chances. But he has been good. He's a good little feature. I like this.
But he has to score. If you're at Milan, you have to score. Like at the end of I don't think Milan fans are too happy because at Feyenoord, he was lights out. He was so good.
Have you seen Serie? The goals are a luxury right there.
No, but at Milan, it doesn't matter what your context is. You got to get goals, and this guy doesn't have them.
All right, he's on the context of team, so let's switch to the team. Of course, we know we're going to guess the famous team that's this week. I'm interested to know this one. This one's going to be always a little bit more difficult. Fouls per game, ranked 32. Okay, yellow cards, ranked number 1. This is the Champions League stats.
Okay,
Notice the discrepancy. Ooh, I like that clue.
They could do as little fouls, because from 32 teams, right?
Yeah.
They're ranked lowest in fouls per game, but they have the most yellow cards.
That's good, though. That's good. That's not too bad. That means that your fouls are clinical. They're cynical. Do we get another clue? We got a second clue? No second clue. What? Producer Jelani, you killing us this week. That's it. This is it. All right, notice the discrepancy. So, okay, so they don't give away a lot of fouls, but they collect a lot of yellow cards. The immediate team that came to my mind is Chelsea because they've had a disciplinary problem this year, but that might not be it. That's a question mark to you. You got a guess?
For me, it's not like an obvious team. It's got to be like...
You got to think Champions League, though.
Yeah, but like it could be like Carabao, but Carabao's got to put more fouls.
He's going to be here all day, I'm telling you. He's going to be here all day. Look, he's going to... Top right was the clue.
Oh, Koulé.
Oh!
Not a clue. Koulé.
Oh! And I have you're the language. This is all you.
I was here ignoring the typo.
Please.
It's clearly not our typo. Our producers know what they're doing.
They good.
Wow.
They rattle through it every week. And this is why we enjoy this segment every week, because we don't have any idea what's coming next. But this has been Numbers Don't Lie, of course, by Nico Cantor, JayDee Dyer. What do we always say? Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. So make sure we see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching this video from Numbers Don't Lie. Be sure to catch our show every Monday at 5 p.m. on YouTube. And for news and insights from leagues all around the world, including Serie A, EFL, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.